Abstain.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Are we good? Can you hear me now? All right. Good evening. Thank you for attending the Town of Amherst Traffic Safety Board meeting. Today is Wednesday, May 1st, 2024. Our first order of business here this evening is just an introduction of us to you. I am Eric Froz, Chairman, and we will just go through the members of the board that are here this evening. We'll start here.
Kevin Cantwell, member.
Nick Alterio.
Dan Ryder.
Jennifer McNevich.
Elaine Sanders.
Bill Prentice from the Building Department. Captain Charles Persons from the Amherst Police Department.
Chris Schregel from the Engineering Department, Traffic Safety Coordinator.
And I'm the liaison to the town board. I'm Councilman Zuccalla.
So before we go any further, we just need to let you know that should an emergency alarm sound in the building, the emergency exits are to my left, your right, and then exit to the front or rear of the building. You can go whichever way you feel like going. Both are the same distance. First order of business for this evening is to review the minutes from the prior meeting. With that, we'll open up the conversation on those. And I believe there is a
There's
a change that we need to address in the minutes for a section that was missing.
if I may, there is a section here, which item is it? It's the the
Item
Willow Ridge item.
Item 4.
Item 4.
Mike, please.
Oh, there it is. Okay, there we go. What was it? Item 4. This was the Willow Ridge section, right? There was a proposal, in the discussion, someone had proposed putting a second stop sign on Willow Ridge South at the intersection with Burroughs, and that doesn't seem to have made it in there.
Yeah. So there's a paragraph for the members that are here this evening. There's a paragraph that was inadvertently left out of the minutes, it appears. Chris has typed up the information up there. If you can just read it and make sure we're in agreement with adding it.
It was pointed out by member Dan Ryder that a large tree is partially blocking the view of the stop sign on Willowwood Park North at its intersection with Burroughs Drive. After considering their options of relocation, ALS both suggested the stop sign be dual posted. That is, another stop sign placed on the south side for westbound traffic. The Traffic Safety Board agreed that a second sign on the south side of this intersection directed towards westbound drivers is recommended and is in accordance with MUTCD related to sign conspicuity, section 2A.11, recommendation to be forwarded to the Highway Department.
So we will add that into the minutes. Are there any other changes to the minutes or modifications? None being heard, is there a motion to approve?
Yeah, I'll move.
Motion from Kevin, is there a second? Second from Helene. Any further conversation? None being heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 6-0 to approve the minutes. So before we get into this evening's agenda, I just want to cover a few ground rules for the meeting, just so everyone here is on the same page. Just so everyone is aware, this board does not have lawmaking authority. Members of this board are appointed by the town board in a volunteer position to make recommendations to the town board for anything that requires legal action, or to direct information to the liaisons that are here with us this evening within the police department and the building department, or who we have with us this evening. As we go through the agenda this evening, if there are anything that requires legal action or anything going on, we will point that out to you as to what the next steps with your item would be. In order to address the concerns of those in the room, we do not go through the agenda in order. We will go through the items based on the order of the sign-in sheet, and then we'll go through new business and old business after we address everybody that's here in the audience this evening. As we go through the agenda, we'll first provide some background information so everyone is on the same page. Then we will open up the item to public comment period for each of you that are here to speak this evening. During the public comment period, you'll be provided 3 minutes to speak. At about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you'll get a single bell from Dan. And then at 3 minutes, you'll receive a double bell letting you know that your time is up. Just so you do know, we all did receive packages from the town with all of the correspondence that you've had with the town, any documentation you've had, any emails you've sent, any correspondence back and forth. So if you have your 3 minutes, there's no reason to reiterate anything that you've already provided. We all have copies of that. Once we close the public comment period, that does close the speaking portion for the residents here. We're not able to answer questions from you after the public comment period has closed. So if you do have any questions for us during your public comment period, we advise that you ask them then. We'll make note of them and try to answer those questions for you when we close the public comment period. There may be points in time while we're having our conversation that we may reach out to you for more information. At that point, we will allow you to obviously answer those questions for us. And then just some final information for you, because some of these topics will come up during the public comment period that you will bring up. Just so everyone is aware, this board is required to follow the manual on uniform traffic control devices, also known as the MUTCD. You will hear us refer to that during the course of the meeting. The MUTCD is a document issued by the federal government along with the New York State Supplement. This document provides uniformity and consistency, allowing road users to know what to expect when you're driving. So that's dictates all the signs that you see on the road so that they're uniform from town to town, place to place. The town of Amherst also does have a 30-mile-per-hour speed limit through the town. The state does allow a reduction to 25 miles per hour under certain circumstances. The village of Williamsville has done that in some places. However, the town would need to take legal action in order to drop a speed limit below 25 miles per hour, other than inside a school zone. Also, there may be conversations that come up tonight regarding stop signs. So everyone is on the same page. Stop signs are traffic control devices. They are not speed control devices. So if you want more information on stop signs and how they are to be used as a traffic control device and why they should not be used for speed control devices, you can simply Google that topic and you'll find all kinds of case studies and work that has been done on that topic. And then finally, when it comes to speed control in the town as well, when it comes to speed humps and speed bumps with the city of Buffalo installing them, the members of this board are in favor of speed control devices being used to reduce speeds throughout the town. However, there's legal action that would need to be required by the town board to install them, and there needs to be alignment and agreement on the process of how those would be installed between the between the town itself, between emergency response and highway, and at this point, there is not agreement on that within the town. Still being worked on. We hope to have information on that in the near future to be able to use that as a way to control speeds here within the town. So if you want to bring that up, we are more than happy to further discuss that with you as part of your agenda item and actions that we may be able to use to help move that project along. With that, our first order of business tonight, based on those that are signed in, is actually item number 2 on our agenda, which is the Mill Valley Court request for parking restrictions on the cul-de-sac bulb. So Chris, if you can give us the background on that, and then we will jump into it here.
Thank you, Chairman. In the month of April, the town was reached out by a member of the Williamsville School Transportation, and it was a bus driver who indicated that they're having trouble navigating the end of Mill Valley Court. As it appears on your screen, it is a cul-de-sac with a center island. Currently, there is bus travel within that cul-de-sac, and this bus driver said there's a vehicle that is parking within that area that is making it difficult to navigate around. As such, they asked that the traffic board consider a parking restriction similar to what it has done throughout the school district to assist school children pickup by Williamsville schools. And we said we'd take it over from there. In your package was a sample of another cul-de-sac, not specifically this one, where you implemented a parking restriction around the bulb itself. in a case where there is a parking restriction proposal, we invite everyone who may be affected. So everyone around this bulb, I think starting at this house all the way around, was notified of this meeting. And then what we prepared after that package went out is a sample proposal, just to start the conversations. I certainly don't need to go off this. But what a typical cul-de-sac parking restriction looks like. They're usually for school days only, and they have been normalized to the 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. hours. When you have done this in the past, you include the center island. It is legal to park in the middle island or adjacent to the island. In a lot of situations, you don't actually sign it unless it's a problem, but that is included in the language. I had one phone conversation prior to this meeting with a resident who inquired about the genesis of the request, and I had another conversation with a gentleman who couldn't be here, and and he followed up with an email which has been distributed to all the members. So hopefully you had a chance to read that prior to this discussion. But he gave several alternative proposals. I can go into those in detail later after your discussion if you'd like. Turn it over back to the board.
Great. So with that, we'll open up the public comment period, and John Trufilio, if you want to step up to the microphone over there. We just ask that you, when you come up to the microphone, we just ask that you state your name and your address so that can be reflected in the minutes.
My name is John Trufilio. I live at 146 Mill Valley Court. I just wanted to state that I'm a disabled vet. I had 2 hip replacements, and I'm a Vietnam-era vet. If you implement this parking restriction and my grandkids come over and play in the driveway to shoot basketball, I won't be able to park in front of my house. Based on your red circle that you put in, you're going to make me park all the way down the street. There's only 6 houses in that area. I also had conversation with the bus driver, and I used to drive bus, and I also have a Class A license, and I drove semi. The bus driver goes down the middle of the road, and she should stay to the right in order to make that turn. And she's not doing that. She's going right down the middle of the road. So I tried to explain it to her, and she didn't want to hear it. The other thing I wanted to say is I've lived there for 32 years, and I've never, ever, ever had a problem with any bus driver that picked up any kids on that cul-de-sac. And I would also like to state that we have garbage pickup there, and those trucks are even bigger than a bus. There's no complaints for the garbage men. And if so, I would like to know, have there been any complaints on this cul-de-sac? And again, I'm disabled. You can't force me to go park someplace else being disabled, you know, with 2 hip replacements and my other ailments. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. And Artie Trufilio?
Good evening, Artie Trufilio, 146 Mill Valley Court. I've also been there over 30 years. I haven't had any issues or seen any issues from buses, garbage men, truck delivery drivers. This seems to be more of a case of a underskilled driver. I know it's a newer route for her. I believe it's her first year. She just seems to have an issue navigating around the cul-de-sac. I'm not sure if she's maybe not used to driving around a cul-de-sac. I spoke with her after I received a letter from Amherst Police basically stating it's perfectly legal to park in the street, but if you could be considerate. And I said, hey, you know, do you need me to move? Another neighbor spoke with her, and she said that was fine and seemed to be able to navigate around the cars perfectly fine. Another aspect to this is I'm just curious, how could only one cul-de-sac in the whole neighborhood be blocked from this when I've talked to other neighbors and other cul-de-sacs in the same neighborhood? And from what they're telling me, she's complained about cars there as well. Implementation of this would affect 7 families, countless others, visitors, people who are coming for service, landscaping, and deliveries. Solution to this seems to be maybe give the driver more training or perhaps transfer her route to an easier route for her. With that said, I also have a video of the driver from 2 days ago. When there's other cars parked in the street, she loops around it no problem on my cell phone. That's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Is there anyone else here this evening wishing to speak on this item? None being, nobody else wants to speak?
You said that we couldn't ask a question. My question is, can the guy whose kid is being picked up, can he go down to the corner and his kid go to the corner so the bus driver doesn't have to circumvent any of these turns? And then they just stay on the straight route on South Salino?
Okay. All right, any other public comments? None being heard or seen, we'll close the public comment period and open conversation up here to the board. So the residents here are aware that if this was a new development coming before, every development that comes into the town, this board actually reviews the streets that are as part of the plans, the planning of the neighborhood. If this neighborhood were to come before this board today, that court would be marked and flagged for no parking during school hours. That's the common approach that is taken now for all cul-de-sacs that are put in that are over a certain distance. The Williamsville School District has a policy as to which students they are going to pick up and which cul-de-sacs they are going to go around and which ones they are not. I believe it's roughly if the cul-de-sac is longer than is under a quarter of a mile, then the kids are required to walk to the end of the street. And then that changes for elementary schools versus middle schools versus high schools. I personally live on a cul-de-sac that is 800 feet, and I have to walk my child to the corner of the street because it is under, I believe, 1,000 feet is what I've been told by the school district, so they will not drive the bus around the cul-de-sac per the route. However, certain bus drivers do still come around my cul-de-sac to pick up my son because I'm at the end of it, because it's, in their opinion, more convenient for them to come down the street to turn around than going the next street down around and coming back. So they have their routes, they have the individual drivers that do their thing in addition to that. But just want to point out that if this was before us today as a new development before your house was there, it would be flagged with no parking signs around the cul-de-sac before any houses are built.
I understand, but how do you deal with the disability? You know, doesn't New York State have disability laws, or there are federal disability laws?
So when it comes to parking in the street, you do have the ability to park in your driveway. The street parking restrictions, I am not sure how that applies in regard to ADA compliance. However, the parking restrictions that are in effect for there would be flagged per the town. I do know there are some places that I've actually seen in the city of Buffalo where it'll be no parking along one side of the street, and I have seen, there's one spot that I know in particular within the city of Buffalo where there is a sign between two driveways that says parking permitted with a handicap tag. So there are ways to go about getting exceptions for that if it is required and needed.
One other thing, if the car's parked in the center, around the cul-de-sac, and she pulls to the right and drives around, she won't have an issue with that either.
So that is up to the driver, the bus driver and the school district to work out with the firm that they have hired to drive the bus. What is before us right now is basically the parking restriction itself, so I'll open it up to comments from others here on the board based on our common practice, and when these issues come before us, it is to put the parking restriction in place at the request of the school district. Actually, to bring up your other question that you asked, Chris, if you can zoom the map out a little bit, because I did look at this. My assumption on this is that based on the distance of the street, based on the busing requirements that exist within the school district and from New York State, that making the child that lives in that cul-de-sac walk to the end of the street would not be allowed. The school district basically has to run the bus down that street. I don't know what the exact measurement is.
Yeah. It's 800.
So there's kids that wait on the corner right there, that get picked up, 7 or 8 kids on that corner waiting to get picked up by the bus.
Yep, so I don't know the rules. That's up to the school district, how they do their routes. At this point, that cul-de-sac is meeting their requirements, that they have to drive down that cul-de-sac to pick up that child. If it is an elementary student, they probably have to do it now. When that student ends up in middle school, the requirements there may change based on the age of the child and what they're required to do.
You know, we also have a 5-month.
So we're going to continue, at this point, the public comment is closed. We're going to continue on with the conversation. All right, so there are the requirements from the school district that go along with the guidance from New York State with the busing requirements. So it's 1/10 of a mile to an established bus stop. And then grades 5 through 12 is 2/10 of a mile, it doubles it. So with that, comments from others here on the board for this particular item?
Are there, were there two proposals here, Chris, or two,
Yeah, so we can,
only one?
we can go over those. And I'm sorry, I don't have a visual of this, and my optical eye over here isn't working, so the public won't be able to see this, but I'll do my best to explain it. The resident who reached out by email, their counter proposal A is not to formally restrict any of the parking on the cul-de-sac, with the understanding that the vehicle that is parking, park right kind of where my cursor is. So when the bus comes in, they're not impeded by a vehicle that is parked on the front of that island. I think that's a reasonable solution, as long as it's followed. And they show a picture of where that's occurring with the school bus traveling around that white car in that location. Counter proposal B is essentially what I have, except they're taking it to where the point of curvature turns into point of tangency right at this driveway. So everything here, but stopping here. So that is typically how you post these. You normally stop at the point of tangency. I guess the question is, will a car in this location impede the bus driver? I don't know. Does that answer your question, Dan?
No.
So on that particular counter proposal,
Yes.
the cul-de-sac that I live on has a similar pattern to this one.
Okay.
If you force that bus to the middle of the cul-de-sac there, it's actually probably going to make it harder for the vehicle to turn, kind of like our gentleman here said as well, to stay to the right of the lane. That allows the bus to
Right.
make the turn and have the swing room going around the court. If you force it to the middle, it pushes it out, if that makes sense, kind of as your mouse is doing.
So we're able to restrict, we could restrict the parking on the circle, the inner circle.
Yes, you may.
I don't know that we ever had that as an option before.
It's usually standard. You know, if you were to build this today, that center island wouldn't even be there because we don't allow that anymore. But for these older generation cul-de-sacs, you normally include that within your recommendation to the town board.
And Chris, if you zoom out, this particular cul-de-sac is designed a little bit differently than most of the other ones in this neighborhood. Most of the other ones are centered on the roadway. This one's offset, which may pose a little bit more difficulty for the bus driver.
I would also say that looking at the cul-de-sac, the other cul-de-sacs in the neighborhood, they're all small. I doubt the buses are going around any of those. This particular one, the length of it is
Right.
More than a tenth of a
more
mile.
than a tenth of a mile.
Probably going down this one.
Yeah, but that one, the cul-de-sac is centered on the roadway.
Yes.
And the school district has specifically just asked about this one cul-de-sac, not any of the other ones in that area?
Yes.
One question that I have, is it feasible to divide the day-long window into two smaller windows? So that if, the bus driver arrives at a consistent time and departs at a consistent time. If we have, say, 7 to 8 and 3 to 4, or split the hour somehow to, restrict the parking. I've seen, parking exclusions for, finer periods of time than a whole day. Is that something that we can?
It's not an approach that we normally take, because you do have points of the day where the school days are different with a half day of school, or different points of the day where it doesn't resolve the issue.
Yeah, elementary school pickup can be different from the middle school versus high school. There's late dismissal buses. It becomes a guessing game, and of course, the policy, the school districts could change it any year, and we don't want to be in a situation where we're constantly updating our signs.
Chris, what about handicap signs for parking? If we
I don't know of any handicap signs in the town of Amherst on a public roadway. When I looked into it in years past, I didn't think it was allowed. I guess I'd defer to Captain to know if he knows anything in the vehicle and traffic law that would specify the allowance of that sign, or have you seen it?
I'm not aware of anything, and I would have to research that. I don't know off the top of my head.
The town of Amherst does have a committee on disabilities, and I'm sure they would entertain that item as well.
Well, maybe we should ask that committee for their help here, because I don't ever recall us having a situation like this before in 10 years.
Aside from that one car, is there much parking in that? No one everyone uses the driveway, right? Except for that one guy. And I assume he's one of the 7 people who live there?
Yeah.
Okay.
None of my other 7 neighbors can come with so short notice.
Well, if we don't let that guy park there, guy or girl, then they're gonna park across the street, right? So-
Well, he spoke to the bus driver, I spoke to the bus driver, we said, where can we park that it wouldn't bother you? She said over there and over there, so we moved the cars, both people moved cars, and she said, I thought that was the answer, she said it was fine. My neighbor spoke with her one other time, I said, is she all right, is she having any trouble? He goes, no, she's coming right around, she's fine, she hasn't said anything to me. Before that, she was throwing her hands up and kind of, he said she's been upset.
Plus, no other cul-de-sacs in all of Golden Gate don't have this restriction.
So-
And I'm disabled.
Do you have a disabled sticker on your car?
Yeah, and I got one here from the town of Amherst.
So you said you've lived there for 32 years?
32 years, never had a problem, never.
So I'm gonna make a proposal here that we receive and file this item. I believe from listening to the residents that are here this evening, they've had conversation with the bus driver. It seems that there is an amicable solution between the bus driver and the residents of the street at this point. Looking at the picture that was proposed where the bus driver said it, and where the bus driver said the car could be parked, that would allow for her to be able to get through the cul-de-sac. If the residents are able to continue down their path and work with the bus driver themselves, park the car where it is out of the way of the bus driver, since it seems to be one car in particular that we're going after, that we receive and file the item, and if it comes back before this board in the future from additional complaints from the bus garage and the bus department, transportation department of the school district, we would then address it at that point to put the parking restrictions in place. But at this point, if the cul-de-sac hasn't had it for 32 years and it's worked, I would prefer to leave it to the residents to address with the bus driver for an amicable solution that appears has happened over the past couple weeks. And let's see how that goes before we take action to post signs, because my feeling right now is, based on the response that we're getting from the residents here, that if we do propose putting the parking restrictions in place, they will come back before the town board as well, and we know that the direction of the town board from other situations like this normally does not rule in opposition to the residents of the street when it comes to installing parking restrictions. So I think it'll come back to us either way, even if it does go to the town board for the installation of the parking restriction. That would be my proposal at this point, and I'll leave it to the rest of the board to further comment or agree. That was a motion to receive and file, yes.
I'll second.
That's a second from Dan. Any further discussion? None being heard or seen, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So motion carried 6-0. So with that, that would be the recommendation of this board at this point. We're receiving and filing this information. It'll be on file. Chris will reach back out to the transportation department and say that the residents of the street informed us they've come to a solution as to where the car can park for the bus driver to be able to navigate the cul-de-sac, and if the bus driver continues to have issues, to reach back out again, at which point we'll open the item back up again. Okay? With that, we'll close item number 2 on the agenda, and we will move to item number 3 regarding Old Orchard Drive and North Forest Drive.
Thank you, Chairman. So item number 3 is Old Orchard Drive. This is a local roadway that intersects with North Forest Road. That intersection itself is a county intersection. It is unsignalized and stop controlled in the westbound direction. The resident who came to my front desk and ultimately sent an email, I believe is here tonight, and stated she wanted some sort of signage to make the motorists along North Forest Road know of potential turning vehicles off of Old Orchard. She indicated some sort of a merge sign. I told her there is no specific merge sign, but that the Traffic Safety Board could certainly take a look at it and give the recommendation. In terms of your package, I did provide, I believe, an accident report mapping that indicated that there has not been any accident history between the years of 2018 and 2023 at this subject intersection. Beyond that, after the package was sent out, I did go out and take some pictures and also did a sight distance calculation. So looking at the photographs, this is at it was rainy that day. This is at the stop sign looking northerly. There is a tree that is blocking some of the view. And of course, a house is there. This is a curve coming in. So that is obstructed. That does not meet the sight distance requirements. But if you were to pull up, where most people pull up, it does meet the sight distance criteria. So this, again, this is the direction we're looking at. And this is the sight distance calculation. If using the speed of 35 miles per hour for an 85th percentile speed, making a left turn, as the resident indicated, the recommended distance is 390, and the measurement was at 410. So it doesn't meet it by a lot, but it does meet it. Obviously, if speeds go up beyond that 35, then that distance gets greater than that, and you are not meeting it. With that, I'll turn it over to the board. That is all my information I have.
Okay, thank you, Chris. We'll open up the public comment. We have 2 residents signed in. Reynolds? I think that's Dolores that wishes to speak. Yep, that's fine.
Is this on? I've lived on the street 56 years, and we were the first house to build on Old Orchard, and the problem did not exist back then. It's the increase of traffic and the speed of the traffic because of the curve and I've tested it several times. You have between 4 and 5 seconds to pull out, and a car can see you. And if you're going over 35, and it happened tonight on the way here, there was somebody, we pulled out, stayed in the passing lane, and there was a white car right there, right next to me, almost instantly. You say there haven't been any accidents, and that's why I'm here. I'm hoping to keep it that way, because when there is an accident right there, it's going to be a bad one. They just don't have enough time to see us because of the curve. It isn't the house and it isn't the tree. It's the curve where you have a very short distance. If you come around it and there's a car pulling out, you have almost no time to do anything. So I'm hoping there's some sort of sign. It would be nice if people drove 35, but they don't. The white car that was right on us today had to be going closer to 45. And it's when you pull out and you're making a left to go to Maple Road. We have a new neighbor that has a new wife, and he forbids her to make a left onto North Forest. She has to go down to Old Spring and come out and go around. And it's getting worse every year, or I would have been here 50 years ago. Thank you for your time. I hope you can figure something out.
Thank you.
I think my husband had a point he wanted to make.
If your husband is Philip, he is signed in, but he said he didn't want to speak, but if he wants to, he is more than welcome to. Would you like to speak, or?
He says no.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience this evening wishing to speak on this item? None being heard or seen, we will close the public comment period and open it up to the board for further discussion.
It is Harry, she's right. It's,
Chris, can you do a street view and see if there is an intersection ahead sign headed southbound?
there is a sign heading southbound. What does it say?
Oh, I didn't see one the other day.
You'd have to back up.
It's raining.
There is a sign indicating a curve.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is being finicky. Backwards.
That's weird.
I don't see that.
That's, I saw it. I know it's there.
I don't see a curve advisory sign or a side street sign.
Not there.
I would, this being a county road, we would have to coordinate with them, but I would ask for, if it meets the requirements for a curve warning sign. But I would also highly recommend an intersection ahead sign. And then also, if highway could, I know it's private property, but somehow figure out a way to trim that tree, realizing that it doesn't block the sight. Most people will come up to the stop sign and it doesn't block their sight distance, but if there are vehicles that cannot be seen from North Forest because of that tree, it might benefit from being trimmed. You can see the headlights coming.
So Bill can talk about the tree itself. Bill, put you on the spot
Yeah,
here.
we do have a town code that shows the clear vision triangle. It's a 35-foot triangle. We would just need to identify where to start that from for the right-of-way. And within that clear vision triangle, if you envision it as a 45-degree angle coming across there, we cannot have any obstruction that is between two foot from the ground and 8 feet high. So basically, you have that from 2 foot, I don't know, Chris, you could probably just highlight it there, just showing, that evergreen that was on the corner there. We
Yeah.
could have the resident trim that up, so the lowest branch would be at 8 feet. So that part that's hanging right there would actually be cut up, so there would be a clear vision there to the north view on North Forest. We would just have to identify how far in to start the triangle from the 35-foot clear vision.
I understand that, but in the winter, we still have trouble pulling out and there are no leaves in that tree.
Oh, okay.
It's the speed. It's the speed of the cars coming. It's short distance.
And even with the tree being trimmed, most of the obstruction is the house itself.
Chris, I think you said the house is not, correct? The house is outside the vision?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
The house is outside of the clear vision triangle.
No, yeah, the house is definitely outside the clear vision triangle.
But the house is,
It's within the site distance. That's a different calculation.
yeah, so the house is within the site.
Yeah, let me just show you that again. So
It's
site,
okay at 35 miles an hour.
End of the street, that's the,
so that's what this is. So that's a different triangle, and X being the distance the book gives you for, in this case, it's 390 feet. So if you're parked at the stop sign, the house is within that area.
Right, being further pulled up, though, you have to obstruct the sidewalk in order to have the clear triangle, which is its own issue, right?
You mean obstruct the crosswalk, or the crossing?
If you go all the way up to the stop sign?
Yes.
Right, you're
Right.
obstructing the sidewalk to have that clearer view, which is an issue in and of itself, right? Would we want to continue that, consider that to be, where people need to pull up to? Yeah, that seems like a problematic place to establish your clear view triangle from.
yes. So I'm trying to recall this conversation as we've had it before. When the car pulls up to the stop sign, the car is required to stop at the stop sign. But then the car advances forward to make its movement. It is in that position where it is, it's considered acceptable if it's stopped at the stop sign, because it's making sure that the sidewalk at that point is clear, and then advancing forward to start their movement. However, majority of the people are stopping there.
Well, you're going to absolutely get in a collision with a oncoming car if you don't pull up and block that sidewalk. If you stay back at the stop sign, forget it.
So, I agree on the turn and the issue that exists there, but the advantage that we do have in this situation is that there is a center turning refuge as the car is making the left-hand turn. So the car has the ability that's making the left-hand turn to turn into the center turn refuge before merging into traffic. So if that center turn refuge wasn't there, I think we would have a bigger concern at this intersection, but the car does have a means to make the left-hand turn into the center turn refuge while the car is coming. As the resident stated today when she was pulling out to come to the meeting, she was able to turn into the center turn lane and then merge into traffic.
That's what I did the other day when I was there in a rainstorm.
Can you put a battery-powered sign up that says 35 miles an hour or 30 miles an hour? And leave that there for a little bit, and maybe put some police officers there?
So Chris, are you looking for the sign from
Yeah,
it's the advanced
yeah,
hidden intersection or whatever that you see?
yeah, advanced intersection warning sign, I don't,
Can't hear you.
Why can't a merging traffic?
Because it's not a merge. It's not, well, that's not a merge. A merge would be two lanes coming together. So it's not a merge, it's a left-hand turning movement into traffic. It's not, the cars, in essence, are not merging. It's an intersection.
Can you put a sign that's got a curve with a thing going into the curve, which is what the street would be? Because the street comes in after the curve. So you'll have a sign that warns of a curve with the street coming in.
A blind corner sign?
Yeah, I think you can. I think it's right there.
Intersection works.
I think we need to remember, though, before we call it a dangerous intersection, we have no accident history at the intersection. I,
I know we put up hidden drive signs before.
right.
That's not a driveway, that's a street.
Driveway, there's-
Well, it could be hidden.
And it's not hidden.
It's not hidden
So,
technically.
yeah, this is the one right here. So these signs here are intersection advanced warning signs. So what the board is considering is an advanced sign showing drivers on North Forest that there is a road coming in. And if it does end up being a curved road, then we could utilize W1-10. Otherwise, we would just use, where's the straight one? Let me see it. There is a straight one, I
There's
don't,
a straight one,
yeah,
which is the one that is actually in your picture
right.
from the car, going in the other direction.
I drove this the other day. I could swear there's a sign.
I think it's in the other direction.
It's going.
If you look in, Chris, can you pull up the picture from your car?
Oh, okay. Come on.
Swear there's a sign. Heading south.
That
Oh, there
right
it is.
there. So it has, it has that sign up for the next street up for people going around the turn because the curve, because there is another street on the other side of the curve for traffic heading north. So it's warning them of that street because you can't see it going around the curve. So there should probably be the same sign posted on other side of the street in advance of this intersection for cars heading southbound.
It may have been at one time.
Yeah, true.
And as far as the possibility of the town of Amherst putting up our radar trailer thing, because this is a county road, we can't do that, or can we? And then the other question is, even if we could do that, is there enough room on that side of the road in the shoulder in a safe place to do so?
Captain?
I'm familiar with the area. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a safe location to place that trailer. We would be able to, should there be a safe location. I just don't know of any curb cut that we could park it on. And then certainly we wouldn't want to block the roadway. That would make it more dangerous condition.
So Chris, would we need to refer to Erie County to do the analysis there to determine if the sign is warranted, or is that a sign that it's a county road, so it'd be placed by them, not by us, correct?
That's correct.
Could we in that letter suggest that sign and/or any other recommendations that their traffic and safety people might have?
Yes, you read my mind. So with that, I'll make a motion to refer to Erie County Highway, since this is a county road, it's not a town road, for the installation of a intersection advisory sign on the curve or other recommendations that the county highway department may have to advise drivers of the turn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jennifer. Any further conversation? None being heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 6-0.
And can we also have highway address the tree trimming?
And yes,
No.
If-
Building
if
department.
feasible.
building department.
Building department.
They should be
I don't know.
probably back near Klein. There's a standard as to the distances that they post them, but because Klein is the nearest intersection for traffic in that way, there's probably one near the Klein intersection for cars making a left-hand turn from Klein onto Forest. I would assume there's one in that vicinity.
I guess if your point is, can we have more speed signs, the answer is no. They're periodically placed on a road like this. I don't know where they are offhand.
Keep driving, keep driving.
However, Chris, I would think there should be one posted for cars making the left-hand turn from Klein.
Yeah, you'd think.
So can we put that in the letter as well? Placement of speed limit signs and ensure that there's one posted in the vicinity of Klein Road based on the traffic movement of Klein to southbound. It's right there probably, on the wrong
Right
side of
here.
the intersection.
Nope, that's a yield to pedestrian sign. Oh, there it is.
There it is.
I don't know if turning vehicles can see that, but
It should probably be moved a little bit further down the street, on the other side of that mailbox at least. Turning car probably does not see that.
We can recommend they move that further south.
Mike?
So can we add that to the letter as well?
Sure. Move that sign further south.
Mr. Chairman, I have a issue on the next street to the north here. Is it Carriage or Carthage or whatever it is? It's this,
Carriage Circle?
you want to look at that now, or do you want me to write it up and send it in for next month?
It would probably be written up and submitted for next month because it's a different item.
Okay.
okay, any
So with
more
that-
action on this?
With that, we're sending it to Erie County Highway for possible improvements to the intersection and placement of the intersection warning sign and movement of the speed limit sign further south of the intersection of Klein and North Forest for drivers making that left-hand turn to have better visibility of that sign, and referring to the building department for enforcement of the clear vision triangle, if applicable, for the tree that is obstructing the view of the intersection. Okay? Thank you. With that, we have nobody else signed in this evening for any items on the agenda. Just want to be clear that there's nobody else here for any other agenda item that didn't sign in. Are you here for any item? You're with them? Okay.
The gentleman in the back is David Chiazza. He's here for number 4.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we will move to item number 4, since we have someone in the audience this evening for that, which is 5105, 5117 Sheridan Drive.
David, I might need your help at the mic on this one, simply because I don't know where it is, where it stands in the. We're missing our planning department liaison tonight. So this is a site plan that should be familiar to most of the members. Nick, you might not have seen this, but it is at the corner of Mill and Sheridan. It went through several iterations of design, where ultimately they came up with a solution to do a right-in, right-out at Mill, as well as an in on Sheridan and a dedicated out on Sheridan, more towards the east of the property line. This is servicing a coffee house and an existing Mighty Taco. I believe it is planning board approved with conditions, is that correct?
That's correct.
So there has been a planning board resolution that was all distributed within your package this evening. I don't have it in front of me, but there's a line in there that indicates that the planning board desires the petitioner to fund the placement of a crossing guard at the Mill Street driveway and have it be studied. I'm paraphrasing here, so someone has to correct me if I'm wrong. And have it be studied by the Amherst Traffic Safety Board. So that's why it's here before you. I collected information and provided it to the members, and essentially, there is a crossing guard criteria that the town follows for new crossing guards, so we applied that. Oddly enough, it didn't specify that it needed to be an intersection, so I would assume that a driveway applies. But generally, it wants to make sure that there's sufficient school children crossing, in which case the criteria is set at 20 school children. That was met in the PM, but not met in the AM. Granted, I think it would probably meet it in the AM if it was a warmer day. This was the 50 degrees. It was somewhat of a nice day, but we only got 16 children. Further, the criteria says there's got to be 150 vehicles per half hour passing that point where the school children are crossing. This is undeveloped at this point, so there's no true traffic counts that we can utilize. Instead, we can take a look at the traffic impact study and look at their projections, and when you do that, I'm not going to go to the page, but I'm going to save you the time. It shows that in the PM, only 13 vehicles are traveling westbound to exit to the right or enter northbound, entering from the south. So that fails. In the AM, similarly, there's obviously more vehicular traffic in the AM for a coffee shop. So it was 17 per half hour, again, needing 150. So per the criteria, it fails. There is language in that same criteria that allows the town board to implement a crossing guard should it so desire for other reasons. And at this point, I think I'd like to turn it over to Dave to kind of just do a brief summary and make sure what I conveyed was accurate.
Good evening, David Chias, Isco Development. Excuse me. Just a point of clarification. So at the planning board meeting, I don't remember the planning board member's name. She asked if we would, the precise word was consider contributing towards the cost of a crossing guard if one was required or would be determined to be required at the driveway. So it wasn't that the planning board was, at least in our interpretation, we issued a responding letter correcting this, that it was not being imposed by the planning board, but that it would be evaluated, and if one was determined to be appropriate for that driveway, we would be asked to consider contributing towards the funding of that crossing guard, just to make sure that context is clear.